About 2 years ago, I had a job that I really enjoyed. I was working with great people, helping folks that were in crisis situations resolve them. But for some reason, one day, I saw in the newspaper an ad for a job, and I thought to myself, wow, this job looks kind of interesting. And on a complete lark, I sent off my cover letter and resume, not really expecting to hear back, not thinking that this was maybe the job for me. But like what often happens when you find the love of your life or a new career, it happens when you least expect it. So guess what? I got the job. So it was very exciting. But one thing came with this job that I was not exactly prepared for. And what that was media and public attention that I had not received up to that point. I was in a nice, comfortable spot, could hide away and come out when I wanted, but all of a sudden there it was, such that my second morning of the job, I got up, went outside, picked up my newspaper, and yes, I still read newspapers. I unrolled it, and there was my picture on the front page of the local paper above the fold, which is kind of a big deal, and it was staring back at me before I even had my coffee that morning. And this was the picture. Now, this picture is okay. I mean, I used this picture on the website where I worked before. It's a professional picture. So I read the article. The article was pretty good. And what do most of you do when you receive positive publicity? You want to send it to your mom, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom, I can't wait to send this to her. So I'm poised with my finger over the send key when I make the mistake of starting to look down and read the comments. Ms. Meadows-Keefe, perhaps you would inspire more believability from the public if your photo didn't look like a mug shot. Then next, she needs a new hairstyle. She's kind of attractive, except for the hair. And I'll say the little smiley emoticon really helped me process that. And I was happy when someone wrote, careful, your misogyny is showing. So someone had the compunction to actually stick up for me. Well, you know, it kind of got a little bit worse because now they went from my face to my name. These are real substantive issues, right, that they're commenting on. I don't trust people with hyphenated names, nor can her husband. So my picture looks like a mugshot. I need a new hairstyle. I'm not capable of marital fidelity. I mean, how could it possibly get any worse? Well, now they start going to my qualifications. I do not know Julie Meadows-Keefe, so I certainly will not presume to be critical of her. Do you hear the but coming? The city has insulted us by making a private the commander. A private may become a commander, but only after sufficient combat experience and a resume that reflects that she's deserving of this honor. Wow. The last comment I'm going to share is someone who wrote, everything about this position precludes the hiring of an ethical person. Now, this one hit particularly close to home because guess what the job was that I had? I was to be the first ethics officer ever in the city of Tallahassee. So there was immediately a firestorm of criticism of me personally. So when you're faced with this kind of crisis, what is it that you're likely to do? Well, for me, I got new pictures. I mean, I kind of like softened the hair, softened the lighting, better jewelry, and I think I went with the one on the right because women are supposed to smile more, right? Okay. So the pictures ended up to be emblematic for what's occurred in the job. Because you know what ethics laws are really about? And maybe you've heard it. The appearance of impropriety. And what the laws attempt to do for leaders is give them some guidance, some guide rails, so that they don't step out of line and look a way that makes people think that they're corrupt. So it really is a lot about how your actions look, because people aren't going to go to your heart. They're going to go with what they see and not go deeper. So all that stuff that your mom said about it's what's inside that counts is really a lie when it comes to the issue of ethics and perception, because appearance is everything. So that was one of my hard-fought lessons right away. But the second lesson I got was that ethical government is really achieved in two ways. First, it's being willing to get involved in real civic engagement outside of the echo chamber. And next, it's to citizens committing to electing, selecting, and being servant leaders. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that. First of all, the echo chamber. Our society cultivates echo chambers through things like social media, being able to cultivate our news feeds, being able to receive viewpoints that sustain or buttress our own, not exposing ourselves to alternate ideas. None of you are probably in echo chambers today because you're here. But we have a lot of people who are blamers and shamers and like to get together and validate each other's opinions without admitting any alternate views. So they become very, very comfortable in the echo chamber. So they can hate religion, they can hate gluten, they can hate gators, they can hate all kinds of things, but most often you find people in the echo chamber hating on the government. And there's some that like the government, there's some that are neutral on the government, but then there's a lot of grumpy cats about the government. So those are the ones that are most likely calling for a lot of change and ethics reforms in our society. And they're talking about the culture of corruption. Has anyone heard that term, culture of corruption? And what is corruption? It is knowingly deceiving and dishonestly acting for a wrongful purpose. So that's actually a real legal definition you got today. So they think everything related to the government is corrupt. So what's the answer to someone who can reconcile and bring all of these government haters and likers and neutrals together? Well, it's someone like George. And what was George? Well, we know he was the first president, but he was also what's called a servant leader. And how do we know what a servant leader looks like? Well, as to Mr. Washington, he was skillful at uniting people who had various viewpoints and getting them to direct themselves to a particular purpose. Second, he was dedicated to civic engagement to achieve positive change and obviously built a nation. And it wasn't to get good PR for himself or to get reelected or to get money or power or fame. It was through real commitment, through blood, through freezing temperatures, through mental and physical strain that he built a nation. So he is a model of a servant leader. We still have servant leaders today, and here's some ways that you can recognize them. Because remember, I said it's important to commit to electing, selecting, and being servant leaders. So when you hear servant leaders talk, here's the stuff you're going to hear. You're going to hear a lot of we messages. Things like, together we can build a better country. Together we can solve hunger. Together we can address issues related to climate change. What you won't hear from servant leaders is I messages. I did this. I built this company. I can do it. I will tell Congress what to do and they will jump. These are our I messages. Other things you'll hear from servant leaders are people that are transparent, that'll let you see into themselves. They're also people who are responsive. They're responsive to critics. They're responsive when they're asked questions. They don't adhere to talking points. They will really answer the question when they are asked. They are also accountable. When things go wrong, they address it proactively and they admit their mistakes. And they say, this is how I'm going to fix the mistake, and this is how I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Servant leaders are also builders. They build collaborative relationships. They are ethical in their own use of power. They are empathetic and caring about other people. Now, these are not just the kind of people that we want to elect to office. These are the kinds of people that when you're out in the world looking for jobs, these are the bosses that you want, because they're going to mentor you and grow you, and they're going to measure their own success by how successful they're able to make you. So they're always looking to improve other people. And that's the kind of leaders that you want to be as well, that it's not about getting credit or achieving something on your own. It's building something with a unit of other people that you can be proud of and that achieves an inclusive vision. That's what you want to hear from your leaders, is someone who's saying a clear vision for including everyone in decision-making and in collaborative leadership. But what's happened? In 1958, 73% of people said they could trust the government. That's a lot. So where are the servant leaders? Were there servant leaders then? Because now, look, 13% of people don't trust the government. 1 in 10 say they never trust the government. So what's to blame? Well, a lot of people think this gentleman is to blame, but there have been a lot of people around since then. So what's happened? Well, we've got this thing now, and it's called a culture of blame. People identify problems, and instead of going introspective and looking at themselves and what their role is in society's problems, they blame other people. So you hear they blame Congress, they blame the president, they blame Democrats, they blame Republicans. They blame liberals or conservatives or rich people or poor people or kids who got trophies for just showing up. So what, if anything, have ethics laws done to improve our society? Have they had any positive effects at all? And I will say yes. I am a big fan of ethics laws, and you'd hope so, based on the job that I currently have, since it's my job to cultivate that in the city. What ethics laws really are guardrails for our elected and selected and employed civic leaders. They help them navigate and know when they might be running off the road and engaging in what I call pre-criminal behavior, and give them the tools to identify that and stay away. It's kind of like your curfew when you were a kid at home and your mom wanted you home at midnight and you said, well, you know, I've never been in trouble before. And she said, well, nothing good ever happens after 12 a.m. You should be at home in bed. This is the same kind of thing. They're trying to actually engage in some preventative measures to keep people in the road and prevent conflicts of interest, which is basically being pulled in two directions, yours versus those you're trying to serve. And we do have an ethics code in Florida, and what it seeks to do is give people trust in their government, show that the government has integrity, give people an opportunity to get opinions about their behavior before they do it, and also affirmatively disclose their assets and interests they may have that may compete with their public service. And in this vein, the Independent Ethics Board in Tallahassee seeks to promote the actual and perceived integrity of our city government and prevent unethical conduct before it occurs by modeling good behavior instead of focusing on policing the bad. So what are our ethics laws up against? Well, they're up against our human nature, unfortunately. People want to win. People want to advance their cause and will go to many different lengths to do it. There's also issues of sex and money and competition and all of those issues that are historic in nature and that no law can ever fix. And that's why it's so important that we exit the echo chamber, that we enter into authentic civic engagement, and why we need to commit to servant leadership. Thank you.